very last week where I did the yoga session with one girl, with another volunteer, and it was so nice.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So to the BAM.
Great. Hello.
Hello. How are you guys?
Very good.
Fine.
Good. How was your asana class? Enjoyed? Now you're all set for pranayam?
Yes.
Great. So let's sit comfortably wherever we are sitting, keeping the back and neck straight. And very gently close your eyes. And start observing your breath. Just the natural flow of our breathing as we inhale and as we exhale. Keep your body aligned. So take a few moments to adjust your posture and align the body. And once you feel your body is aligned, comfortable, and stable, you can begin to deepen your breathing, entering the practice of Puraka and Rechaka. Slow, long, and deep inhalations. Slow, long, and deep exhalations. Relax your mind. Prepare the mind for Om chanting. We'll chant Om 3 times, followed by 3 Shantis. Exhale completely. Then inhale for Om.
Shanti. Shanti. Shanti.
Just feel the vibrations. Join the palms together and rub the palms together. Place them on your eye. Very slowly while blinking and looking at the palms, begin to open up your eyes. Start coming back with a smile. And namaste to everyone.
Namaste. Namaste.
Let us begin today's session. Okay, so last time we practiced normal breathing, yeah, followed our breath. And today the practice that we are going to do, it is very important. Okay, this is again a pre-practice for pranayama, but this practice you guys have to do for the entire month. Okay, because as I told you, each and every practice it will take a long period of time for you to master, right? And right now, even our breathing pattern is not correct, right? So this practice will help you greatly to correct your breathing pattern, first thing, right? And this is the most ideal way of breathing throughout our day. Okay, so for these two reasons, the practice we will do today, it's the most important one, right? So, but before we begin this pre-practice, yeah, there's some general notes that a pranayam practitioner should know. Okay, so I'm going to cover this portion today. Okay, so today we are going to cover two things. One is the practice, and one is this topic, general notes for a pranayam practitioner. Okay. Now you have all become pranayam practitioners, right? So before we enter all the practices, these are some things that you should generally know. Okay, because pranayam is not that easily, it has deeper impact. Okay, so it's not that easily observable whatever will happen during pranayam. Okay, so first thing is the contraindications. Contraindications mean wait. So your contraindications, these actually mean people who should not practice. Okay, so first thing you should know before, whenever you give instructions for any pranayam, it is best to tell the contraindications before the practice, right? Because if somebody cannot do it, somebody sitting in your class who cannot do it, they should know beforehand that they shouldn't practice, or they can do it with some form of variation, right? That same practice, right? So contraindications, even though for each and every pranayam they are going to be different, but overall, generally speaking, if you are ill, you should not practice pranayam. Okay, if you are undergoing any sort of illness, you should avoid the practices of pranayam. There are some breathing practices that we will do before pranayam, so those can be practiced, right? During illness, these pre practices you can do, but not pranayam. Okay, and again, for heart patients, right? Heart patients are very like sensitive. It's a very sensitive case when somebody has some heart illness, so you have to be very careful in their case, right? So for them, always, like, they should practice any pranayam in the presence of a teacher only, right? Otherwise it's very difficult for them, and they will immediately feel an impact, right? So with heart patients, you specifically have to be very, very careful. Okay. Right. Apart from this, when we cover each and every pranayam, I will tell you who can practice and who cannot practice. Okay. So they will vary according to the pranayam, right? Um, there are, we'll talk about food and everything also, because uh, people think that pranayam can be practiced after asana, right? That sequence is correct, but once again, pranayam not only requires the work on your breathing, but it also requires that you regulate your food, right? So next point, before I come to food, because it is a long topic, let me talk about your you know time of practice. Now, time is also quite relevant when it comes to yogic practices, right? And like most of your teachers would have told you, early in the morning and during sunset, these are two very ideal times, right? To practice, go for any yogic practices, right? These two timings are quite ideal for us to do any practice. Yeah? So one thing that we cover in time of practice is overall, generally speaking, when you should practice, right? And one thing is, other important thing in this is fixing your time of practice, right? Because when you do something every day at the same time, so it helps you to bring, easily get used to the habit of practicing, right? So try to keep your time of practice same every day. So after time of practice, place of practice, yeah. So place of practice, this is my favorite topic to cover. Yeah. So place of practice is very, very important. Yeah. So set up a space. Wherever you're practicing, set up your space. Okay. Choose the color of your mat, whichever color you love the most. Okay. Right. So one thing is this, whenever you buy something on which you intend on practicing, choose your favorite one. Okay. So set your space according to whatever you like, right? So it should be pleasing to you, right? You should have the motivation to show up wherever you want to practice. So, the color of your mat says so much about you, right? Who you are. Like my mat, it's green in color, so I love green, right? And green reminds me of nature, and nature is generally green. So I chose green, right? So in that same way, whichever color you really connect with, choose that color. Go take out some time to buy, your mat. Yeah. Okay. So try to go for natural material, that is more preferable, even though most mats you will find these days, they are like made out of rubber or plastic. But if you can, if it's available around you, it's always good to go with something that is nature friendly. Yeah. Right. So again, set up your space. So some people, they love candles, right? So you guys can go get some candles if you like in that area. You can light a small diya, right? Or you can also go ahead. Some people love plants. So especially when you're practicing pranayam, it's good to have indoor plants which clean the air around you, right? So you cannot leave your city, right? We cannot leave our homes, but we can at least have plants which purify the air in that area, right? So one plant I know of is rubber plant. It's an indoor plant, doesn't require much taking care of, and you can just bring it home, right? You can adopt a plant and you can keep it in the space where you are practicing pranayama, right? So set your space as you like it, okay, as it is appealing to you, right? And fix that place. Okay, so don't keep changing. One day you're putting a mat somewhere, then other day you're putting it somewhere else. Keep that space permanent. Okay, that the energy, whatever you are doing, that energy builds up in a place, right? Like you, when you go to bed, you immediately fall asleep. Why? Because you have created that kind of energy over there on your bed. When you sit on your studying table, you feel like studying. So in that same way, when you keep a place for your yoga practice, when you show up over there, you would feel like, practicing. That thing will give you a push. You have set aside a space, right? Whatever space you are choosing, just make sure it is well ventilated. Okay, so doesn't mean you take a corner, right? There is no ventilation. Try to keep the ventilation as natural as possible in that area, right? So open up your windows wherever you are. Like, yes, if there are windows around, it's good to open up the windows, right? And try to stay at the normal temperature where you are. Okay, so like sometimes, we turn on the AC if it's too hot, or we turn on the heater if it's too cold. So pranayam should be practiced in the weather, natural weather, right? Whatever your area is, the natural weather of that place, you should practice in that kind of like space, and Like even turning on the fan is prohibited in like very deep practices. Even fan is, they say that whatever the temperature is, you have to practice in that temperature only. That is why I said the place should be well ventilated, because when you turn on air conditioning and the fan, there is movement of air, so that doesn't make you feel as if the place is not well ventilated. But when you actually turn things off, right, that is when you see ventilation is not that good. So try to keep your space well ventilated so that you can practice at the normal temperature, right? And that also doesn't mean that you go and sit in front of your window, right? Because there would be a gush of air coming in, which will distract you again. So well ventilated means that you are positioning it correctly so that air is able to pass, but air doesn't distract you. Okay, you can whatever you like. Okay, if you want to paint your walls differently, the favorite color, go ahead, do that. I like love that thing, when you get to set up your own space, right? But just make sure that you are not making it too distractive, right? If you place everything that you love around there, then again you will get distracted. So keep it plain and simple. So you should like find a balance between both the things, something you like, but again at the same time it is plain and simple, so that the mind is not like running everywhere, right? Awesome. So next point that we have to cover is the bathing, right? Now bathing is also one question that comes up a lot, how much time after the practice or before the practice, right? So if you are bathing before the practice, it is good, right? Again, but if you wake up too early in the morning, it is too cold, like it's understandable that you want to bathe later, right? So one thing is, ideal thing is that you bathe before your practices, right? Because when you go and take a bath, you feel fresh, right? So it will just give you a push, right? And it also wakes up the entire body. So especially if you wake up in the morning and you are all lazy, like taking a bath, wakes you up, right? But it is again totally up to you, right? Whenever you want to. If you want to bathe after also, right? If you choosing to bathe after your practice, give 15 to 20 minutes gap minimum, okay? Or if possible half an hour. Why? Because you are working on your breathing, okay? It will change the temperature of your body also, right? And whatever you practice, you need to give some time in order to observe that practice, right? So after pranayama practices, it will take you 15 to 20 minutes to come back to your normal body temperature. If you take bath before that, then you will like um, play with the body temperature. Basically, will change it to immediately, right? So it can cause you some like ill effects, right? You might catch cold, right? Something like that, it might end up happening. So in order to avoid that, just wait for 15 to 20 minutes so that the body temperature comes back to normal, and then go and bathe, right? So take that amount of gap. Now let me come to food. I will cover food in two ways, okay? So one is the when do you consume the food? One thing is this, right? So again, before the practice, your stomach should be empty. So early morning, you will not have to tell anybody to do this thing, right? Because early morning we don't wake up and we eat, but some people do. So just mention it in your classes that they have to be empty stomach, right? And if they feel very weak, they can consume honey in lukewarm water, okay? That can be consumed before the practice, just to gain some energy. Some people, they suffer from low bp, so they need something before their practice. And you will again do asana practice first, then you will introduce pranayam, so energy also drains. So you can, even you guys can take lukewarm water and add some honey to it and consume it before your practices, right? And again, in after, once again, same thing as breathing, 15 to 20 minutes minimum gap should be there, right? If half an hour is possible, again go for half an hour. Because again, as soon as you consume food, all the energy rushes towards the stomach, right? So all the energy that you will gain out of the pranayam practices, that will immediately dip, because all the energy will go towards the digestion process. So in order to like just allow that energy to ease in, right, take this amount of gap, it is always good. So food in the second sense, it comes in the form of diet, right? So diet is given a lot of relevance, especially when you come to pranayama. Okay, even though in asana also it is very important for you to regulate and change your diet, when it comes to pranayama, it cannot be performed properly unless and until your diet is regulated, right? So it's like I am eating all the junk, right? And then I'm doing yoga to reduce weight, right? So a lot of your students will come to you for yoga for weight loss, right? So they will eat so much junk, right, during the day, and they will expect that in that 1 hour that you make them practice, they would lose weight, right? Which is a wrong expectation, right? Because your diet heavily, influences your yogic practices, right? You can consume a diet which enhances your yogic practices, and again, you can consume a diet in which during your entire 1 or 2 hours that you're giving to your practices, you are just neutralizing their ill impact, right? So changing of diet is very important, especially when it comes to pranayama, right? So always go for uh, one thing in modern terms, balanced diet, right? So all the vitamins, minerals, everything should be consumed, right? Carbs, proteins, everything should be a part of your diet. And diet you are very closely going to cover in your Ayurveda classes also. So you will get an idea according to your own body type which diet is the best suited for you, right? Okay. So just make sure that whenever you are consuming in modern terms, you are taking good amount of everything. The nutritional needs of your body are being satisfied, right? Then other thing is that whenever you are doing pranayam, always go for diet kind of the kind of food which can be easily digested by your system, right? Because food is supposed to give you energy, not take energy away from you, right? So if you are like, we eat junk food, right, so we feel very lethargic and sleepy. So because the energy used to digest is much more than the energy that food can give us, right? So we are going in loss, right? So you have to be very mindful. Whenever you eat something, you need to check, is your energy level increasing or is it decreasing, right? If it is decreasing because of that food, that means that food is not good for your system. Your body immediately answers that question, right? If you listen very closely, your body knows what is best for you, right? So always go for easily digestible food, right? In yogic terms, we call it sattvic food. Sattvic. This is the best kind of food that you can consume, sattvic food. Right, easy to digest, has very high pranic value. We talked of prana yesterday and how it is also part of your food. So the pranic energy of this food is very high. So generally, vegetarian food, right, that is considered to have high pranic value. Okay, so try, I'm not saying completely switch right now, but try that you start having more food which is like has high pranic value. That is why non-vegetarian generally, when you go into spiritual practices, it is prohibited, not because of other reasons, right? But at least you can understand this basic logic that it has low pranic value, right? vegetables, fruits, these things have higher pranic value. When you eat fruits, you feel fresh, right? So those things, because they have a tendency to give more energy to you, right? So I will take a class separately on food also, where I will tell you more about food. And Ayurveda, you are covering food as it is, right? So we will get a lot of information on food as well. But for now, just this much understanding is good for you. But you will have to begin to change your diet, right? Because again, pranayam cannot be fully, you cannot go into the practice very deeply if you don't regulate your diet. So already start regulating your diet. It will have a direct impact on your flexibility also. Okay, so if you are not interested in all other things, you can go ahead and just see how when you change your diet, your uh, flexibility also, improves because of that. Okay. Next thing is clothes. It's only today that I will cover all of this. In future classes, I will not mention all of this, but I believe all of these things are very important. Okay. So, clothes that you wear, it is sad to see that when you go for, shopping these days and go to the yoga section of some place, very tight fit clothes are sold over there, right? Clothes which will hug your body, right? And this is so away from the original idea of what yogic practices are, right? You have to wear loose clothing, right? Whenever you do pranayama, asana, wear loose clothing, right? Go for oversized clothes, right? Yeah, you don't, because your body needs to breathe. Okay, your entire body breathes, right? So if you go for um, clothes which are tight fit, you will also feel that way. You will also feel constricted and restricted. If you wear, clothes which are loose, your mind will also, start to feel more free, right? Your practices, they will start to become more, like, you will see the impact of the same practices very differently, right? Even though, they advertise that the closer the clothes hug you, the more, you will be able to move your body. But that's not the case. The muscles actually get very constricted and restricted when you buy that type of clothing. So today, go for shopping, right? Go and buy in the weekend. Weekend is coming, right? So go do some shopping, buy loose clothes, buy clothes which are made out of natural material, right? So most of the yoga clothing these days, it is synthetic, right? Synthetic material is given, right? And we all love to shop, right? Especially in COVID, we just need a reason to step out of our houses. So go shopping, yeah. Go buy 2, 3 lowers, 2, 3 t-shirts which you really like. Go for the color that you really like, right? And buy loose clothing. Because when you do asana, when you do pranayama, it's important that the clothing is loose so that you can feel your body moving as you do those practices. You can feel your breath. Okay, so it's very important that you also change your clothing. It will help you immensely, right? When you sleep at night, you wear loose clothing, right? You don't wear tight clothing. So it helps you to go into relaxation, right? Uh, and especially, if you have jeans, go and throw them out. Okay, jeans doesn't allow your body to breathe. The material doesn't allow your body to breathe. So go through all of these things out now. Take them out of your life, right? You can go ahead and wear loose clothing and be very cool, right? Yeah. Okay. So next thing is avoiding strain. Okay. So generally, when we do yogic practices, we think the more we can hold, right, the more we can, keep ourselves in a particular position, the better it is, right? But the main essence is lost when you do practices in this way. Like when I told you in yoga philosophy class, also yoga is that stage which is it happens, right? So you have to allow things to happen. That is why I told you the practice that I'll introduce today, you have to practice it for the entire month. That is when it will start coming naturally to you. So when you do pranayam, nothing should be forced, right? If somebody is asking you to prolong your breath, right, which we do in pranayam, breathing is prolonged. It doesn't mean that you are forcing yourself to prolong the breath. It means that you are allowing your breath to get prolonged. You are practicing it so much and so regularly that it is the default setting of your system now, right? So you have to practice so much that you reach the default setting. So these classes, I will only introduce the practices to you, right? So we won't get to practice a lot. In 1 month, you cannot practice everything very deeply, but you can clarify your techniques so that when you take them in your personal practice, you do them correct, right? So the target is to get the practices correct, right? Apart from that, time will play its own role, right? And you have to wait for that. So your breathing should always be smooth, right? So sometimes, breathing comes like we breathe and then we hold, then we breathe in again. So this smooth, continuous flow of your breath should be there when you are doing pranayam. You have to be very careful of these things because these will make the difference. Okay. All the pre practices and the way in which you do them, they are going to make a lot of difference in your overall progress, right? So next thing is there are some side effects, right? Okay, so right now, I told you you guys are not even breathing correctly, right? So currently, what is happening is we are not breathing correctly, right? So now we are going to work towards correcting the breathing pattern. And once we correct the breathing pattern, that is when we start pranayama. But we will start before that only, right? Because it takes a lot of time to even correct the wrong breathing pattern, right? For so many years, you have been breathing wrongly, right? So when you start doing this thing, especially in pranayama, more oxygen is introduced in the body. Okay. So when you start doing these things, some side effects begin to show, right? So sometimes, people sweat, right? There is some shaking in the body. So these are normal side effects that show up. Okay. So I'm just giving you an example, right? So for all of you, it is going to be different, right? So when this thing begins to happen, uh, after a prolonged period of practice, it is going to go up, right? But sometimes it so happens that it doesn't go away, right? In that case, you guys will have to, right now I am teaching you, so you will have to consult me, right? And when you are teaching, your students will consult you. Okay. So there are some side effects which will naturally come in, right? But if they prolong, like for a very, like if they go on for a very long period of time, then it can be problematic. Initial level, it is all right because already you are introducing much more oxygen in your body, so body reacts, right? It's not used to, right? We are not providing it with good oxygen, but when we provide it, it just shakes up, right? So we'll have to give it some time to adjust to that level, right? Next thing is the breathing. Okay. So, like I told you, the quality of the breathing is always supposed to be done with the nose. Okay. So, unless and until you instruct, okay, this statement should always be like you should always tell your students this, right? Unless and otherwise there is an instruction, breathing is always done through the nose. So, your mouth should always be closed. There are a few pranayam practices which are done with the mouth open. So, when I teach you those, I will tell you where the mouth needs to be open. Apart from that, all the practices and pre-practices, mouth needs to be closed and nose is going to be used to inhale and exhale. Only 2 more points left. Yeah, the sequence. Okay, so this becomes a very big point of confusion. Sometimes you will see some people, take classes when they do pranayam before. Okay, so that is wrong. Okay, the pre-practices that we are doing right now, they can be done in the beginning of the classes. Okay, but the main pranayam practices, they have to always be done after asana, right? So today, whatever practice we are doing on normal breathing, these you can do in the beginning of your classes. But as soon as you begin with the pranayams, you are going to only introduce those after uh, the asana practice. Okay, and it is always good to do some pre-practice before the pranayam. Okay, so even if after asana, you can go for few pre-practices and then take them into pranayam, because the breathing needs to be prepared. All right, because after asana, the breathing is quite unstable, right? You guys also feel as if breath is less at that point of time. So you need something to stabilize the breathing first, and it is only then that you can prolong it, right? If my breathing is already shaken up, I cannot work towards prolonging that time period. So just introduce some pre-practices before each and every pranayama, right? And always practice after asana. You can go for some cleansing practices like Jal Neti. That is a part of your course. You will find it in your pre-recorded videos. It is a cleansing practice. So Shat Karma, the 6 cleansing practices, and asana practice. This is the sequence, right? So first cleansing is done, then asana is done, and then pranayama is done, right? So follow the sequence. And again, this is an extension of your first point only, contraindications, right? So medical history. You will have a lot of students, and these days, yoga is used as a therapeutic practice more than it is used for its normal purpose, right? So if in the beginning of your classes only, just ask your students if they have any medical history. If they do, get ask them to get their reports and everything, because everybody cannot do pranayama. So you need to be very, very careful whenever you are introducing the practice of pranayama. If any student has any medical history, it is your responsibility that you take that into consideration before you introduce any practice to them. And this is easier when you are going for one-on-one classes. But if you are taking a general class also, you can at least change your instruction in that way, where you can ask them not to practice, right? Okay, so only a proper healthy person can practice all pranayams. Apart from that, most of your students, they won't be able to do all the practices, right? So it's your responsibility when they come to you that they do not suffer any ill effects, right? Right, these are some general notes. Only today, I in the beginning only I take out this time where I mention these things. So whatever you like out of this, go ahead and incorporate it, right? So today's practice is abdominal breathing. Okay, so if we were all kids at one point of time, right? So when we were kids, I don't know if you guys observed, right? We used to breathe through like our abdomen. That doesn't mean the air is getting filled in the abdomen, but generally when we used to breathe, our abdomen would move in and out, right? As kids, kids, and if you have kids, just observe this thing. When they breathe, their abdomen moves, right? as they breathe, right? And it moves in the correct pattern, right? When they inhale, their abdomen will move out, and when they exhale, their abdomen moves in, right? And whenever we want to feel carefree, right, we remember our childhood, yeah, because at that point of time, not only all other things, our breathing was correct, and that induced that state of mind where we were very relaxed and chill, right? No tension, no stress, right? So, as you begin to grow up, our breathing pattern changes. When we become more stressed, right? So, one thing that begins to happen is we shift to chest breathing. So, most of the adults you will see, the chest moves in and out when they breathe, right? So, one thing is we shift to the chest breathing, right? Which doesn't allow us to breathe properly because we are not acquiring the amount of oxygen we need. That is why a lot of adults, they feel very lethargic also. Their metabolism is totally shaken, right? It is because we are not breathing correctly. Just a simple thing as changing your breathing pattern can fix a lot of things, right? So abdominal breathing is the breathing that generally children do, right? And right now also, if you will observe your abdomen, of course you will feel a movement, right? Because all of my body is one, right? It is not separate, right? But it is moving in the opposite direction, right? When I inhale, my abdomen will go in because my chest needs space to expand, right? And when I exhale, my abdomen will move out, which is opposite. Okay, so this means that you are doing chest breathing. So first thing is we need to correct this thing, right? So abdominal breathing, very basic thing, but we forget to do it. When you inhale, abdomen should move out. Exhale. Sorry. Okay. This is the most ideal way of breathing throughout the day, right? So right now you guys will have to work on this, but eventually you will see it will automatically become the way in which you breathe. And when it comes to that automation, you will also see how your state of mind, you are much more relaxed during your day, right? So even when you are stressed, it is good to practice abdominal breathing, right? So abdominal breathing doesn't mean I'm filling in the air in my abdomen, right? It's not possible, right? So what is actually happening? That also you guys need to know. So when you do abdominal breathing, you are actually taking in the breath properly, which means that the diaphragm, abdominal breathing is also called diaphragmatic breathing, right? And this name clarifies what is actually happening. Okay, so when you fill in the air properly, then your diaphragm should actually move down. Diaphragm is a dome shaped muscle which is placed right below your chest, right, lungs. And when you breathe, it moves down, right? So, right now, when you breathe in, it is moving up, okay? And when you breathe out, it is moving down. Now you are reversing that thing. Now, when you breathe in, it is moving down. When it moves down, all the organs that are directly below it, right, they move out. Okay. And when you exhale, the diaphragm moves up. There is space, so your abdomen goes in. Right. So this is why it is called abdominal breathing. You're not breathing through the abdomen, but the impact that is coming in, that you can see through the movement of the abdomen. Okay, so right now when I introduce this to you guys, I don't think today we will have time to practice though. But when I introduce this practice, most of the students said this is so hard to practice. You say it is easier and it is the better way, but it is so hard to practice, right? And it is because our posture is not correct. Okay, we sit in a hunched manner, right? So we have created our body posture in such a way where we sit like this. Now if I sit like this, it's very hard for me to take my abdomen out, right, and in. So this means that this kind of breathing will correct your posture, one thing. Okay, so correction of posture will take place as you practice more and more abdominal breathing, right? And initially it might take some effort, but eventually you will get there. Okay, so don't worry, just keep practicing, right? Abdominal breathing is a great way to reduce your stress. When you are in your relaxed state, you will see automatically abdominal breathing begins. Even when you take shavasana, you're able to feel the abdomen. Sometimes even some people give instruction that inhale abdomen out, exhale abdomen in. So this is exactly what they are trying to do. They are trying to induce more relaxation into your system, because in the natural state we do abdominal breathing. It's because of stress and external factors that we forget to switch. Okay, so one thing is that during stress you do chest breathing, yes, but we forget to switch back, right? So that becomes problematic. So then what adults do is they continue this chest breathing pattern. They forget to switch back, which causes them more and more stress. Right? So just simply by switching back after a stressful situation, just switching back to abdominal breathing, you will feel much, much better. Right? Because this stressful situation has passed, but you are still feeling stressed because again your breathing is going on in that way, right? So great practice for those who have anger, those who have all of these issues where any kind of stress changes their behavior, right? So good to reduce tension, all kinds of stress, all kinds of anxiety, all of these things. The simplest solution is go for abdominal breathing. Everybody can practice abdominal breathing. There are no contraindications, right? You can do this laying down on your bed as well, right? So when you are ill, you can practice abdominal breathing. Again, great practice. In times of COVID, abdominal breathing has proven, like shown its wonders once again, right? Because it is such a great practice. You can do it at any point of time, right? And the best thing is you can do it laying down. Who doesn't want that, right? That you lay down and you do some practice, right? So you can lie down and just do abdominal breathing. Yeah? One last thing I will tell you for abdominal breathing, then today we won't be able to practice, we will practice tomorrow. Okay, so what is happening in abdominal breathing? So if you look at your right side of the right lung, it is divided in three lobes. Left side is divided in two lobes. Okay, so I won't take the example of left side. Right side is divided into three lobes. So all the three breathing patterns that will be introduced, they will work on one lobe. Okay, so the lower lobe of the lungs, they are getting properly oxygenated when you do abdominal breathing. Okay, so generally they don't get oxygenated. Over here, this part of the lung, so all the blood vessels that are passing through this area and oxygenating the rest of the body, that is not done properly. Okay, so you end up feeling lethargic, right? Those all the blood circulation, that is an exchange of gases that is taking place over here, it is not able to take place properly because we don't utilize the full capacity of the lungs. When you do chest breathing, middle lobe you are using. Tomorrow I will elaborate more on that. But lower lobe is utilized properly when you go for abdominal breathing. Okay, so all the functioning of the body, all the organs directly below the diaphragm, right? They are getting stimulation because of abdominal breathing. So all stomach related stuff, right? Abdominal breathing is a great practice. Yeah, it stimulates the liver, the pancreas, your stomach. All of the abdominal organs are indirectly or directly stimulated, right? Awesome. So today we don't have time. Tomorrow we will practice, right? So if you guys want to lay down and practice abdominal breathing, that is also completely all right. Just tomorrow when you come for class, just keep your space like that, okay? That you can lie down and experience it. In fact, abdominal breathing is better experienced when you are laying down than it is when you are sitting, right? So tomorrow we will practice it. Any doubts from anything I have discussed today? Everything is clear? Okay. Awesome. So let's just close today's class. We'll just chant 1 time Om and 3 times Shanti. Yeah. Just sit straight. Gently close your eyes. Inhale deeply for Om. Om. Shanti. 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 Join the palms together in front of the chest. Let's just bow down for a few seconds. Just a sense of gratitude for all the things we have in life. Now rub the palms together. Keep them on your eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at the palms, begin to open up your eyes. Come back with a smile. Namaste to everyone. I will see you all tomorrow, right, for your philosophy class, and go take out some time, shop, right, this weekend. So take care, bye bye, and see you soon.
Bye bye. See you.